Morning, guys. Once again, here I am at a beautiful, incredible space. Check it out. Amazing. Just wanted to chat a little bit today about anxiety and its destructive power that it holds over our lives. I'm like a product of anxiety, I suppose. My mum was an anxious person, and my wife and I were just talking today about anxiety and just how the bind it has on our minds and the destructive power it holds over our thoughts as we sort of race off in our thinking, creating more and more problems in our lives, and I'm a terrible one for this. This is something that's plagued me my whole life. We're thinking back today. Interestingly, for me, my parents emigrated to Australia in 1963, so I was born in 63. My mum was pregnant with me on the boat over here from England. It's probably, I'm not sure how long the trip was, maybe around 3 months or so, could have been a bit longer. But you can imagine an anxious person leaving their home, leaving everything they know and travelling to another country, which back in 1963 was a very unknown thing. She was a young woman in her 20s, following her husband, my father, out here to start a brand new life, and you can imagine the fear and anxiety. She's not a water person. She hates the water, whether it came from that or whether she hated it before. A lot of English people back in those days couldn't swim at all, and she was one of those. She never learnt to swim. Was very fearful of water, and here she is on an ocean liner travelling with 2 young children and pregnant with myself, heading for Australia, a total unknown. And I was thinking, and I've said this to a friend, anxiety's been with me obviously since the womb, I think, since I was in the womb. I would have picked up a lot of that from my mother, and then I can remember as a child being very anxious, very shy, and constantly overthinking things, worrying about what people thought of me, will I have friends, shy and insecure. And it's a terrible thing. It's kept me from so much. I've got heaps better as I've got older, but particularly in my younger years and early teens, I was shocking. I just couldn't face things and would often procrastinate. And for those of you who know anything about anxiety, you'll know what procrastination's all about. It's the putting off of the fear into another day or another time, or hopefully forever if you can. And so one procrastinates about a whole lot of stuff. Scary, you keep putting off these things, but they come around eventually and they come back to bite you. I can think of I was telling a lady yesterday, I had a situation when I was, normally here we would get our licence at 17. We've done our L's, learners for a year. And then at 17, we'd roll up to the motor registry and go through the test. Pretty scary thing. I was that anxious about it that I just couldn't face the test. I couldn't do the test. I was like, no, it's too hard. I'm going to fail. Like, I was so down on myself. So rather than doing that, I procrastinated. And I ended up, of course, all my friends had cars. So I thought, I want a car. Do I really need a license? I'm too scared to go and get one. So I'll just jump in the car. So I did that, and obviously created a whole lot more anxiety around that. But here's me driving back from across one side of Sydney to the other. You can imagine through peak hour traffic it ended up. Not knowing what I'm doing, I happened to buy a manual car. So here's me trying to do hill starts in a peak hour traffic up a very long, probably 1 hour trip up back to my home side of town. Mate, talk about anxiety and stress. I was through the roof by the time I got back. I just lost it. I was just a mess. So here's the procrastination. I never learned to drive properly. I didn't have the skills. I just jumped in the car and did what I did. And of course, as procrastination also does, later on, I was arrested for not having a license, and ended up having to go to court and go through all that process before I finally relented and went for my test, which I failed the first time anyway because I'd picked up so many bad habits. Anyway, such is life. But the story, procrastination that comes from anxiety and fear, and so much of that is built into me. It's been such a part of my life, this anxious thinking, these racing thoughts that just race away and they take you. Look, even here, I can be here at a place like this where there's peace all around me, but inside, the churning continues. So it's not circumstantial. It's not. We've got a life that is very, very chilled and very relaxed compared to most people. There's very little that should stress me out, and yet I still find myself stressed quite often. And I wonder, and I think, and I pray, and I talk to God about it, and I sense over many, many years, and I've done this at different times, but still haven't done it that well, to become more contemplative, to get down into the quiet, still spaces, to find my core or my centre where I'm at peace with myself, with God, with the world and the creation around me. So this morning I woke up, I had a couple of things happen last night that were sort of on the agenda for today, and I'm like, here's this anxious, before I went off to sleep I was feeling anxious about the outcomes. So I woke up this morning and I'm talking with the Spirit, and there's this beautiful sense of peace and rest. And the Spirit's saying to me, Tony, you're creating your own problems, my friend. Why do you make such small things big? The problem is, for you, is that you've created a false expectation. You have an outcome that is expected, and for you, if that outcome doesn't come, it's anxiety driven. What if those people don't like it? What if this thing I'm selling doesn't work out? What if I don't get the money I'm asking for this particular thing? What if? Can I come to terms with the fact that maybe the outcomes that I have are a big part of my anxiety problem? Maybe I'm racing ahead, thinking about outcomes, thinking about problems. It's like the brain has this sort of seek and destroy kind of thing. Let's get out there and make problems. Let's think, overthink. What about that? What if this happens? What about if they say that or this goes? And it just can go on and on and on. And I have to stop myself and go, whoa, slow up. What happens down here when I go to the contemplative space? What happens when I go into that quiet stillness of places like this? What happens when I join with the stillness that's all around me? There's a peace that transcends understanding. There's a love that overcomes fear. Perfect love, when I dwell in it, when I choose as a choice to go there, perfect love drives out fear or casts out fear or moves or pushes fear to the parameters of my life. So then, rather than me focusing on problems and constantly going over solutions, which, by the way, I find that I can't often see when I'm in an anxious mindset, for me, my best problem solving, and I take some risks in life, I do some things that are a bit edgy, and therefore I need to solve problems fairly regularly as a sort of an entrepreneurial person. I try new things, and there's obviously problems inherent in that, but I can't find the solutions when I'm in anxious thinking mode. I cannot see the way through while my brain is racing. I must find inner stillness. I must go to that quiet, still place within me, the God space, if you like, and find rest. So contemplation takes me there, takes me down into that quieter space. And when I'm in there, I feel just love and peace. And God's saying to me, why don't you dwell here more often? Why do you go back out and try and solve the problems of life yourself? Why do you create more problems for yourself by thinking beyond today? What about living in the now, in the present moment? And I began to realise again this morning just how much I project forward and don't live in the moment, how I'm racing from one thing to another. And my anxious thinking is the driver for this. My anxious mind, what some people are calling monkey mind. The monkey mind is constantly chattering and you relate to me? Can you relate? It's pretty big, eh? This monkey mind thing is horrible, man. It just consumes you and it robs you of joy. Like often when I first wake up in the morning, the first thing to my mind, unless I stop it and say, wait, let's get into God, let's get into spirit, let's be still, it'll race ahead for problems for the day, tomorrow, next week. Oh, what's going to happen then? How am I going to solve that? What am I going to do to fix that? Those things will come. Solutions will be there waiting for me. I don't solve them by racing around in my mind trying to fix them. In fact, quite the opposite it seems for me. The more I race around in my mind, the less clear I am and the less clarity I have to solve problems. My best problem solving times come when I get into contemplative spaces, when I'm still, ideas come, people come, situations resolve themselves oftentimes. Expectations absolutely are minimised. I've just got such an unrealistic expectation sometimes. When I can bring my expectations down the outcome becomes more realistic. The fear around it, or the anxiety that's driven me to worry about that situation, if I let go of the outcome, for example, so selling something today, selling a caravan today, I want a certain price. What if I don't get that? What if they decide they want to offer me $2,000 less or whatever? What about it? So if I got less, what is there a problem? Is God not have enough? Do I not have enough to cover that? Do I not have enough to overcome that? Or where did this expectation come from that this thing was worth a certain amount? It's been conjured up in my anxious mind. You know, you get what I'm saying? So there's so much that is just created in our own mind. We create the problem and then we go and try to solve the problem with the same mind. No wonder we get stuck. Our problems come from anxious thinking so often, and then we come with an anxious mind trying to solve and create new solutions. There's no solutions there. The solutions come from within yourself in that deeper place. You might have a problem in your business, in your life, in your marriage, in a relationship. As you step back and become still, perhaps you can begin to see it from another perspective. To see in stillness who you are, for example. I am loved. I am okay as I am right now in this moment. This is a perfect space of rest. There is transcendent peace that's bigger than myself, that I can dwell in. I can live in this peace. I can live in this place right now and hold on to that place. Hold tightly to that place, because that is beautiful. True peace is such a rare thing, it seems. Anxiety is blowing up out of proportion in this 21st century. We've got more anxiety than we've ever had. And yet we've got so much more, but it's become very complex, hasn't it? Life has become very complex, and in the complexity of life, it seems the anxiety levels go up further. We've got more problems to solve, we've got more things on in our day, we've got more that we have to get through, we have to. What does the contemplative mind say? It says, be still and know. Be still and know that I am God within you. Kingdom of heaven is within you. Everything you need is within you. Find rest and peace there. It's a beautiful thing. I can feel myself slowing down now as I get to that space. And just right now I'm just going to go and head down probably over here and have some more prayer time and a swim. Thanks for listening. I hope you have a great day. I'm going to follow this up a little bit more, because this is something that's really significant and important, I think, and can be very freeing for us. If we can master this art of the inner world and spend our time out of there. Yes, we can't just be constantly in a quiet space in somewhere like this. We've got to go to work. Yep. Can we take that contemplative mind to work? Can we take it into our relationships with our kids? Can we take it into our studies? Can we take the contemplative mind wherever we go? Well, I believe we can. I believe we set ourselves up for that, and then we can move out into the day in a more quiet and still and less anxious space. So rather than running and being behind and stressing, I can't get this done, to let go, to release, to die to crucify ourselves in a sense, to let go and die to the stuff that holds the greatest expectation and therefore the greatest anxiety. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.